Jesus Christ.
Okay, guys, so there's a wacky dingus who we make fun of a lot on this channel. He's called Tim Poole. And I've done a lot of videos on this guy because he's what we call easy content. He says a lot of wacky, ridiculous things, but he's kind of pushing it to the absolute limit with his coverage of the Chauvin trial. And just to get this started, I wanted to show you some of the thumbnails so you could get a taste on where he falls on this whole trial. Let's just take a look at some of this schnip right here. Here we go. Chauvin defense nails slam dunk as state witness says overdose possible. Chauvin defense scores major win as medical expert says Floyd death not homicide. George Floyd's friend now admits he fears being charged with Floyd's murder. Massive witness backfire. May have just got Chauvin acquitted. Literally every... It kind of strikes me kind of odd. Hits the ear and the eye kind of odd that every video he's made about this trial, he somehow has kind of just defaulted to the side of the defense. The defense being the Derek Chauvin side. Kind of odd. Kind of odd. Let's take a look at this. So this is the most recent video he's done on this case, which is Chauvin trial defense scores major win as medical expert says George Floyd death was not a homicide. So let's hear what he's got to say about this.
The jury is going to watch riots. They likely already have been. They've likely been texted by friends and family saying, "Are you okay? I hope you're safe." And then they're going to be sitting.
He gets very, I don't know if he had some Twizzlers before he did this, but he seems to have some kind of a buzz during this. He's really hopped up on sugar or something.
Sitting there saying, "Well, I think there's reasonable doubt, but they're going to find out who I am and they're going to hurt me." What? And so they'll say guilty and Chauvin will go to prison. That's the point of terrorism. It's literally the point. The extremists know that if they can cause fear, they can drive a political victory. They want Chauvin in prison. They want to exert their authority and show you they control the system. So they threaten you with violence. If the jurors are swayed by this, Chauvin is going to get convicted on all counts, even though murder 2 literally makes no sense if you've been watching anything.
Okay, so even though murder 2, second-degree murder, makes no sense if you've been watching anything. Well, unfortunately for Tim, I have been watching anything, and I'll show you some clips here that kind of go against what Tim's saying here. Before we watch this clip, I just want to urge you to at least watch this one. I think you should watch as much of this trial as possible because it's not just very important, but the trial itself is very interesting. There's a lot going on, and it's worth watching these testimonies. But this one, if you only have a little bit of time and you just want to watch one, this is pretty much the most important testimony. This might be the most important moment of the trial because it kind of summarizes the entire trial. And this is the medical examiner. This is the guy who determined the cause of death for George Floyd, which was homicide. And if you watch this entire uploaded video, and I'll put a link to it, for some reason the Star Tribune, which has somehow less subscribers than I do, was the only one I could find with this full testimony. But I'll give you a summary. We'll watch some clips and I'll give you a summary. So the prosecutor, who's in short, he's the guy. What? He's the guy, arguing on behalf of George Floyd. He says, what's the cause of death here? And this guy says homicide. I mean, that's a very short, dumbed down explanation, right? And that's about, let's see here, that's about 5-6 minutes. Then for basically almost an hour, the defense comes in. And the defense is the guy arguing on behalf of Derek Chauvin. The lawyer arguing for Derek Chauvin, defending him. And he comes out, and his job is to cast doubt on this whole thing. And he says, but what about there were drugs in his system? And this guy says, yes, there was. And then he says, what about the fact that he had serious heart problems? This guy says, yes, he did. He did have that. What about, the drugs and the heart problems could have, that could have worked together. This guy says, yeah. Then we'll watch the very end. So this goes on for an hour, almost an hour of the defense talking to this guy. Then the prosecutor comes back, and let's watch this.
So, Dr. Baker, take into account the entire exchange you had with Mr. Nelson on Mr. Floyd's medical conditions, on whatever testimony you gave, wherever you gave it. I want to bring our attention back to what's reflected in Exhibit 193. And taking all of that into account, what today remains your opinion as to the cause of death for Mr. Floyd?
So my opinion remains unchanged. It's what I put on the death certificate last June. That's cardiopulmonary arrest complicating law enforcement subdual restraint and neck compression. That was my top line then. It would stay my top line now.
And so if we look at the other contributing conditions, those other contributing conditions are not conditions that you consider direct causes. Is that true?
They are not direct causes of Mr. Floyd's death. That's true. They're contributing causes.
And in terms of manner of death, you found then, and do you stand by today, that the manner of death for Mr. Floyd was, as you would call it, homicide?
Yes, I would still classify it as a homicide today.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. No further questions.
I gotta say, I don't want to make light of this case because honestly, of course, it's a tragedy and it's based around a really sad subject. But that's kind of a baller move by the prosecution here. The defense comes in for an hour. And I urge you to watch this video. Here's the defense. Let's take a look at him. This is the defense. This is the guy defending Derek Chauvin. For basically an hour, he says this guy had drugs in his system. Yes, all this. Watch it. I urge you to watch it. Goes through all this. The prosecution comes in and uses this guy's entire examination or whatever, questioning of the witness against him, basically. So this guy went on for an hour. He says, and he says, okay, everything that guy says, do you still stand by that this was a homicide? He said, yeah. So let's hear what Tim Poole said again.
If the jurors are swayed by this, Chauvin is going to get convicted on all counts, even though Murder 2 literally makes no sense if you've been watching anything.
Murder 2 makes no sense if you've been watching anything. Let's read the definition of second-degree murder from Cornell Law School Dictionary. Typically, second-degree murder is defined as murder that is not premeditated, which is a mistake he makes early in the video too. I think he's like something like they're gonna have to show that he meant to do it, or murder that is caused by the offender's reckless conduct that displays an obvious lack of concern for human life. What? Oh! So there's lots more to this trial, and there's a lot more testimonies to watch, which I urge you to watch as much as you can. You know, it's on YouTube and the news, it really, like, this stuff gets oversaturated sometimes, and it's just, you start to look past it. But I would really urge you to watch at least some of these testimonies. If you haven't, maybe you already haven't. I'm just blah, 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 blah. He gets a little weird here. Like, I do think maybe he had like a soda or something before he recorded this, because he seems a little like a kind of energy that he can't control here. But so he's talking about how there's been protests and there's been civil unrest because of the latest police shooting of a during a traffic stop. And he's like, the jury's gonna see that and they're gonna be too scared. They're gonna be too scared for a verdict that he's already assuming is not guilty for some reason in this Chauvin trial. He's already assuming that for some reason he's not going to be guilty. But so the jury's already thinking not guilty, right? Because that's what his audience has to hear. So they're already thinking not guilty, but they're going to see the protests and stuff because there was another police shooting. There was a police shooting. They're going to see that the protest and they're going to get scared and they're just going to say not guilty because we're too scared of all these protests. These bad guys are protesting. So here he goes with this theory.
Now, this is important because, like I said, and like reasonable doubt is what matters in this case. But my friends, politics plays a role. It is entirely possible that what ends up happening, the jury is scared of what's to come. They're going to get to watch everything happen in real time over this weekend.
Wait, what? What was that? Let's just go back a little bit.
They're going to get to watch everything happen in real time over this weekend.
What is wrong? This dude he got hit in the head. He fell off a skateboard or something. This is how he said that. If this is not tracking through, you're listening to this through audio or something, he goes, the jury's gonna see everything. Getting really emotive about something that this dude seems to have not really looked into past, like, just the type of things that his audience wants to hear. They're going to get to see everything. What is wrong with you? This honestly would be kind of funny if it weren't so stupid and horrible. But he's telling the exact story that his audience wants to hear, which is that the police did nothing wrong. The police are the good guys. They did nothing wrong. And so he's obviously innocent. And the jury knows he's innocent, but they're going to be forced to say he's guilty because of these protesters. These leftist protesters are going to force their will on the jury who know that this guy's innocent. They would have voted innocent, but these protesters tell everybody what to do. It's like the perfect just spoon feeding the babies. Like, here's exactly what you want to hear. And then he chews it up first. It's already baby food, but he puts it in his mouth, chews it up, baby birds it into their mouth, then like does the chewing motion with their mouth, then like does on their neck like this so they can swallow it.
Not only did George Floyd die due to the actions of Derek Chauvin, but that he intended for that to happen. When you can't even convince people.
Okay, let's go back. Typically, second-degree murder is defined as murder that is not premeditated or murder that is caused by the offender's reckless conduct. Google second-degree murder, Tim, before you get doing all this emotion.
How are you going to tell me? He killed him. How did he kill him? I don't know, but maybe one of these ways. Okay, if you don't know, I'm sorry. That's reasonable doubt right off the bat. Well, the judge denied it. We expected that to happen. And many...
So just to summarize what the medical examiners have been saying, okay, just to understand this, they're like, yes, we did take into account that he has drugs in his system. Yes, we did take into account that his heart had problems. We know all that. It was a homicide. Still, we get all that. We also have, videotape of a guy knee on the neck with a guy saying, I can't breathe. And Tim's like, no one knows what happened. No one knows what happened. No one knows what happened, right, audience? No one knows what happened, right? Wink, wink, right? Wink, wink, right, guys? Right? It's somehow the protesters are the bad guys too. It's a fascinating job that Tim Poole has. It really is. I mean, just to throw this in here, we'll watch. This is the ER doctor who treated George Floyd, and here's the prosecutor asking him some questions.
And hypoxia as an explanation for his cardiac arrest, meaning oxygen insufficiency.
Correct.
Okay, that doesn't look too good for Tim's case. I mean, they're like, nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows what happened. We just have a video of a guy saying he can't breathe with a guy on his neck. And then the ER doctor who treated him says, yeah, it's lack of oxygen. And then the medical examiner says that the cause was homicide, despite taking into account everything the defense says. Multiple other medical examiners saying the same thing. Tim's like, we don't know. Anything could happen. You know what I think, actually? I think that this is Tim. I think he was actually having negative thoughts, and he should have used positive thinking, like from The Secret. If he did, it would. Okay, I'm taking this a little too lightly. I apologize. I'm going to try to do less jokes because this is actually kind of serious.
The jury may trust the state's version of events. They may not. It's all about persuading the jury, but the defense only needs to persuade them as to doubt. So if the juror says, I don't like this.
I mean, the law is kind of like intentionally ambiguous with this. It's reasonable doubt. That doesn't mean any doubt. And again, like a lot of stuff with law is kind of like this, where it's like, oh, that has infinite definitions. But reasonable doubt isn't any doubt, right? So, like let's say you see me, I shoot a guy, right? Oh, he just shot a guy and you watch me do it. And then I'm like, yeah, but you have bad eyes though, right? That would not be reasonable. That's that. There's some doubt there. It's not very reasonable though. It's not reasonable. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Oh, this really is the dumbest channel on YouTube. Not mine. No, not mine.
No.
Not mine. Is very, 250,000 views in one day. Dumbest YouTube channel on the platform. Okay, so just to remind you, again, the title of this video, Chauvin Trial defense scores major win as medical expert says George Floyd death was not a homicide.
Today, the defense scored a major victory in the criminal trial of Derek Chauvin, the former police officer charged with murder in the death of George Floyd. An expert medical witness testified that the official ruling as to how George Floyd died should not be labeled homicide and should in fact be labeled undetermined due to the multiple factors involved in his death, even citing the medical examiner's report. Now, this expert witness sounded very smart, very reasonable. He didn't say that George Floyd did die because of the drugs in his system or his heart. He just said there are too many factors to tell us exactly what happened. And in his opinion, it should be undetermined. Now,
so remember, this is the defense. The guy defending Derek Chauvin brought this guy. He's a guy from Maryland. He's like a medical expert. He's not the guy who actually examined George Floyd. Let's also keep note of that. I think that's kind of important. But he's like, this is a major victory. And I just want to show you, I talked about this a second ago about the prosecution asking about because one of his things was like, look, this could be so many things, including exhaust from the car. Let's watch the prosecution question that a little bit.
Because you spent quite a bit of time talking about carbon monoxide. You remember that discussion, don't you?
I do indeed.
Now, just going right to the punchline on carbon monoxide that you talked about at some length, you haven't seen any data or test results that showed Mr. Floyd had a single injury from carbon monoxide. Is that true?
That is correct, because it was never sent to the laboratory for that test.
I asked you whether it was true, sir. Yes or no?
It is true.
No.
So just to summarize what happened here, this is actually a really interesting moment here. Just like the moment with the medical examiner who determined it was a homicide. Another very interesting moment here in this case. This guy, David Fowler, the defense called this guy, this witness here. This is from the defense, this guy. And he came up and he was like, look, there's just too many factors. This is the guy Tim's talking about. There's too many factors that could have caused his death. Despite the video that we've all seen, and despite what the medical examiner determined, there's just too many factors. We just don't know. And so one of the things that he goes on and on about during his, during the defense bringing him as a witness is that it could have been the carbon monoxide coming from the car. Then the prosecutor says, hey, do you have any evidence for that? And he says, no.
No.
Nah. And Tim's like, slam dunk, it's over. Close it up, right, guys? Wink, wink, wink to his audience. Right, wink, wink, wink. Nah, yeah, guys. Slam dunk. Let him go home. He'll be home watching Black Mirror before the day is through. That's Tim Poole. There you go. An absolute ding-dong being a dingus. Typical dum-dum.
This is something I have a lot of problems with.
Let's have a drink of Coke.
Toilet.
An absolute...
Toilet.
This is my message to Tim Poole, as it is usual.
You're hurting the kids.
And also this.
You're kind of like a snotty-faced bitch.
So there you go. Just a quick fun, well, no, it's not fun, but just a quick look at a dimwit, you know, with a dumb audience. And there you go. One last note, I'm not going to play like the end credits today because it was made aware to me that that might be messing up the algorithm. So we're going to try, you might not see it for a day or two, the end credits, while I figure out a better way to do that, okay? Is that okay?
No.
You going to unsubscribe?
You're hurting the kids.
Are you going to stay subscribed?
No.
Oh, come on.
You're kind of like a snotty-faced bitch.
Oh, man, that's really mean too. All right, well, bye.